Well, good people, at CES again. Always gotta visit Phanteks first. And my goodness, the NV7 is here and it is pretty fantastic. As usual, Phanteks is trying to bring some really cool, innovative features into the mix. So this is the NV7. The naming behind this is NV, right? NV, Envision, and Showcase. And that's the whole concept behind the NV7, to have the hardware to be on display, to be like the main thing that you want to admire. That's why they want to avoid the whole fish tank look. So the corner here, for example, is completely nice and flat, and regardless of where you look from, everything is absolutely going to be beautiful, as some of the systems they've showed here. And of course, huge thanks to our sponsors for making this CES finally possible. And of course, Phanteks is one of them, so thank you very much. This is a whole new series for Phanteks with a new design direction to have your hardware, the focus and the center of your attention, which is why we have all this glass, but there's so many other little details that make this possible. So for example, now we have very pretty integrated lighting on the interior. So instead of having it on the power supply shroud that you would normally find it, it's surrounding the motherboard. Here's a better view on how these cable cover / integrated lighting components work. So it's a two-piece design. They are a simple slide away. So this one, the top one, removes with these in case you want to access these two cutouts for all your cables. So in this configuration, you are covering a little bit of the cables that are exiting, and this is a good configuration for an ATX motherboard, but sliding it back down just like the other and rotating it, it allows for an ETX motherboard installation and also reveals some more cables and those rubber grommets as well. A really thoughtful design without needing to install the top one if you don't want to, but of course, this whole thing looks very complete with them both in place. The I/O is at the bottom here that can be moved to the back if you want to have a completely clean front panel, because this whole case is about Showcase, and that is a really interesting and unique aspect of moving the I/O to the back. So this is 2 USB ports, 1 USB-C, and a combined headphone jack. But more importantly, notice this angular section over here. It has actual functionality, allowing you to lift the case slightly off the ground, giving you more airflow for the bottom, without totally destroying the aesthetic of this thing, without making it look too high off the surface. Now looking in the back here, this aligns perfectly with their concept of the NV7 of trying to be a showcase PC, because this is not your regular rear back section of an enclosure until you open it. So this is a door. You don't have to pull this out and have to deal with cables, and there are plenty of really awesome details behind this. So first of all, there's plenty of room for your Wi-Fi antennas, but more importantly are all these plastic cable channels that help you guide all your USB cables, your power cables, etc., to make the exit of the cables as clean as possible. So you don't have just a standard random cutout opening in the back where you just put the cable and forget it. Here you can actually cable manage things, and that's very smart. You can also see there's a fan guard over here that is removable, just to prevent you from putting your fingers into those fan blades, because you can mount dual 120mm fans at the back for additional exhaust. And once this is closed, it is all nice and clean. The door, by the way, is magnetic. It snaps in place nicely. And of course, it is removable for a slightly easier workaround when you are handling all these cables. Hey, there you go. Proof, nothing is bending. This is awesome, given this whole thing is mesh at the back. The buttons have been moved to the top with a slim power button that is only illuminated in white. And they finally added 3 buttons for your included ARGB control. So not only can you change the mode and the color, you can now change the speed of the effects, which is fantastic. I think that's a really important inclusion, just because you bypass any software, you don't have to worry about it. And normally RGB, puke, can be too fast. You want to slow it down a little bit. And also, a second very important aspect is the AB channels. So now this case comes with a hub at the back that has 2 channels for RGB with 2 inputs for each channel. So that means that you can connect multiple fans and the Phanteks AIO and have different channels for lighting configuration. The NV7 has been designed with ease of use in mind, so all the panels are easily accessible, secured with thumb screws, and can be just removed with ease. So this, for example, is a standard high-performance mesh that also acts as a nice dust filter when you need it. They will allow you to purchase high-performance dust filters as well in the future. So here we go. But more importantly, normally with cases like this that have the front glass, which is somewhat of a part of a structural integrity, and if you remove it, the whole case just kind of becomes like a little bendy piece of toast. Even though it does act as nice structural rigidity to support this angle over here, once this panel is removed, it's just 2 screws, my friends. It's just 2 screws. Okay. Notice what happens with this corner. Nothing happens. It still maintains nice structural rigidity, so if you are mounting anything in the top, you don't have to worry about things just like bending this whole thing out of place. And look at all this space. Now I can easily mount anything that I want in the side bracket, anything in the bottom bracket. All this access is absolutely phenomenal. So let's talk about the interior, shall we? All right, so moving on to the inside, all the things on the exterior that makes the interior beautiful possible. So first of all, like I said earlier, the motherboard is sort of covered in these panels, allowing it to sit slightly closer onto the interior, giving us more height clearance for the CPU tower, which is 185 millimeters. We have these fan brackets, so the side one and the bottom one. The side one is secured at the top with a thumb screw and simply comes off, so you can install all your radiator and fans installation outside of the case. This part is part of the structural frame, so it's not removable, which is non-issue anyway, because we have these beautiful and very rigid, strong steel panels. So this side panel can be installed with 120 mil fans, 4 of them, and a 360 radiator. The bottom one can do 3 120 mil fans, and this bottom panel is also really interesting because it's, again, really sturdy, nothing is bending. You can rotate it for an angular installation of the bottom fans, so they are slightly more angled for that visual variety. All your PCI slots are easily accessible. We have a drain port at the bottom, a fill port at the top, and of course we have the top, which is not a bracket. It's not necessary because we have all this additional space to work in. So 120 mil fans at the top only, and this is where things get interesting. So the NV7 is actually designed for 120 millimeter fans from a visual standpoint. So when you populate a lot of the fans, they all look consistently in line with each other. So the top fans are in line with the rear exhaust fan. The side ventilation, if you populate all of them, also looks nicely consistent. The same thing for the bottom one. And I feel like that's a bold move. The only thing you can mount 140s are at the bottom, so you can do 3 140 mil fans at the bottom. We also have really interesting airflow covers that are color coded to the case that cover some of the spaces that allow for a slightly cleaner aesthetic and prevent airflow recirculation. And we also have an anti-sag GPU bracket that has height variability and also width adjustment depending on whatever monstrosity you decide to put inside this beautiful NV7. So for cable management, this is the black model. We have a power supply installed in here, so I can show you a little bit of what's going on. So first of all, the power supply, we have lots of clearance over here for cables that can be bunched up in front of it. That's kind of standard. We have really interesting and familiar cable tie points that are with Velcro and that can be easily removed and installed back together, that are horizontal and now vertical. So that means that if you are routing that really tricky 24-pin cable, it is nicely controlled. But even more interestingly is this little panel over here. So this panel not only reveals the back of your CPU cutout for potential cooler swaps, but it's also a bracket for storage, so dual SSDs can be installed over here, and this really interesting cable routing system allowing you to wrap longer cables over here with Velcro available to secure it, and you close it back up so that you can still utilize that space for cable management, but in this clever way that you can wrap around these 2 poles. And I've never seen that before. I really want to test this in action, but this is a very clever system. Below that is our storage door, which is really cool. You can install a single 3.5-inch drive and 4 SSDs or 2 3.5-inch drives. And we have these cable tie openings for all your routing that is accessible for all the SATA cables. All right, good people, so that is the NV7 for Phanteks. A totally new direction, totally new case series, and I really like all the refined elements on the exterior, on the interior. I love this rear panel to hide all your cables and to hide the mess, allowing you to also position the case with the rear facing you. You know what I mean? So, price points and availability, right? What do you think? $219. Available in February, so much earlier than honestly I expected. There will be no fans included. I think that's the right call, just because you know, you're gonna have to include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fans in order to really take advantage of what this case can offer. And I feel like what they've been doing with the T30s, that might be the perfect fan here. And also all the new fans that they're launching that you can check out. Mike did a video on them. It's very late. I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video.
That's why you built this case, to sell $330 of those fans. Hashtag Phanteks NV7.
We just exposed them.